The 28th of January 2017, Portsmouth, Hampshire. A cold suburban street lay silent beneath the orange glow of streetlights. Curtains were drawn, doors were locked. Inside these quiet houses, families slept, unaware that violence was already in motion. Through the darkness moved a wheelchair-bound woman, her breath visible in the winter air. In her hand, a kitchen knife. Her destination was less than a mile away. Her reason was simple: £100. By morning, a mother would be dead, and 2 families would be broken beyond repair. Victoria Margaret Arthur had once been just another face in a tight-knit community, known, familiar, unremarkable. But that night, she became the center of a killing so brutal, it stunned even experienced detectives. How does a debt so small end in bloodshed? This was not a sudden argument. It was not a momentary loss of control. It was rage fed by addiction, instability, resentment, and days of unanswered threats. Where Hampshire's streets whisper the secrets they hoped would stay buried, and the women behind its darkest cases are finally unmasked. What you are about to hear is not fiction, and it may stay with you long after the screen goes dark. Arthur was 44 years old at the time of her conviction. A long-term heroin and alcohol addict, she lived on Milton Road in Portsmouth and relied on a wheelchair for mobility. Her criminal history was extensive: 37 convictions for 180 offenses, including violence and carrying knives in public. She was not new to confrontation, and she was not unfamiliar with intimidation. Her victim was 36-year-old Nadine Burden, a mother, a friend, someone she trusted. Burden owed Arthur's partner, Julie Palmer, £100. In the days leading up to the killing, Arthur left a voicemail that would later prove crucial. Her voice was calm, but the threat was unmistakable. If the money was not repaid, bad things would happen. Just after 11 o'clock that night, Arthur armed herself with a knife and made her way to Burden's home on Toronto Road. The journey was slow, deliberate, determined. Inside the house, a confrontation erupted almost immediately. A neighbor later recalled hearing Arthur shout, "You're gonna have it," followed by desperate pleading, "Please, stop." 7 stab wounds followed. One severed Nadine Burden's jugular vein. Arthur left her alive but bleeding heavily on the floor. Before leaving, she wiped the door handle, an act that spoke not of panic, but awareness. Moments later, a housemate returned home and found Nadine in a pool of blood. Emergency services were called, but she was pronounced dead before midnight. Arthur fled to Julie Palmer's address. There, the knife and blood-stained clothing were washed. But evidence cannot always be erased. Police recovered the threatening voicemail. CCTV footage traced Arthur's movements. Forensic analysis revealed attempted cleanup. Witnesses confirmed the shouting and screams. Arthur claimed self-defense. The jury did not believe her. She was convicted of murder and sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 23 years. A debt of £100 had ended a life and destroyed 2 families forever. The 25th of February 2011, Southampton. Behind the closed doors of a modest flat, tensions had been building for months. Rajvinder Kaur lived with her husband, their children, and her 56-year-old mother-in-law, Baljit Kaur Buttar. Mrs. Buttar had travelled from India to stay with the family and was due to return home just 2 days after the incident. 6 months of arguments, resentment, and emotional strain reached a breaking point that morning. During an argument, Kaur lost control. She grabbed a wooden rolling pin from the kitchen and attacked her mother-in-law, striking her around 20 times. The blows were concentrated on the head and upper body. The injuries were catastrophic. Instead of calling for help, Kaur attempted to stage the scene as a medical emergency. She placed the body in the bath and later claimed her mother-in-law had collapsed. Paramedics immediately suspected something was wrong. Blood was found throughout the flat. The injuries did not align with a fall. During the investigation, Kaur gave 14 inconsistent accounts. At trial, she admitted manslaughter but denied murder. The jury rejected her explanation. She was convicted of murder and sentenced to life imprisonment, with a minimum term of 11 years. One moment of uncontrolled rage had erased generations of family bonds. Havant, Hampshire. Shay Groves was drawn to violence long before she committed it. Her bedroom walls were lined with images of serial killers. She collected books about murderers and weapons. She described her own personality as dark and twisted. Her relationship with 25-year-old Frankie Fitzgerald was volatile, marked by heavy drinking, cocaine use, jealousy, and control. On the night of the killing, Groves checked Fitzgerald's phone and became convinced he was betraying her. Rage followed. Fitzgerald was stabbed up to 22 times. Many of the wounds were to the chest and neck. Several punctured vital organs. What followed disturbed even seasoned investigators. Groves cleaned parts of the scene. She placed bin bags beneath the body. She sent messages to create a false alibi. She video called a friend while laughing, showing the body. She believed she could outsmart the truth. But digital evidence told a different story. Footage, messages, and forensic analysis dismantled her claim of self-defense. In February 2023, she was convicted of murder and sentenced to life imprisonment, with a minimum term of 23 years. Her fascination with violence had finally turned inward, with fatal consequences. The 21st of November 2009, Old Basing. Suzanne Shadwell was seen by many as an exemplary mother, a childcare worker, reliable, responsible. But behind closed doors, she was consumed by anger over a bitter custody dispute with her ex-husband, David Shadwell. That night, she disguised herself, armed with knives, and broke into his home after their children had gone to bed. David was attacked while sleeping. A violent struggle followed, spilling onto the landing. Their children witnessed the chaos. David survived, but suffered serious injuries and lasting trauma. Suzanne was convicted of wounding with intent and sentenced to 10 years in prison. The court acknowledged the devastating impact on the children, whose sense of safety was shattered in their own home. The 22nd of March 2010. Gosport. 20 years of marriage ended during one alcohol-fueled argument. Jennifer Parkinson and her husband had been under financial pressure and drinking heavily. Words turned to violence. She retrieved a knife. After initially being disarmed, she picked it up again. The final wound proved fatal. Cleared of murder, Parkinson was convicted of manslaughter and sentenced to 3 years and 8 months. A long marriage ended not with separation, but with irreversible loss. The 8th of January 2022, Basingstoke. Stacey Devon drove drunk and under the influence of cocaine. She crossed into oncoming traffic without braking. The crash killed her boyfriend and left 2 strangers permanently disabled. She pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 8 years in prison. One reckless decision reshaped multiple lives forever. The 7th of April 2024. Aldershot. Abisola Ajayi operated a Class A drug supply network from ordinary streets. Drugs, weapons, and luxury goods were seized. She pleaded guilty and received a 42-month sentence. Organized crime rarely announces itself. It hides in plain sight. Understood. These women were not distant monsters. They lived on ordinary roads, behind familiar doors, among neighbors who waved hello, shared small talk, and never suspected what was quietly building beneath the surface. Their stories remind us that crime does not always begin with violence. Often, it starts much earlier, with resentment left to grow, with addiction untreated, with anger unspoken, with boundaries crossed again and again, until consequences become inevitable. Each case we have explored tonight is different. Different ages, different backgrounds, different motivations, yet all share one unsettling truth. None of these outcomes were inevitable until the moment someone chose not to stop. A debt ignored, a temper unleashed, a drink taken too far, a position of trust abused, a warning dismissed. In many of these cases, there were signs, threats that went unchallenged, patterns of behavior that escalated, opportunities for intervention that came and went unnoticed. For the victims, there were no second chances. Lives were ended. Families were fractured. Children were left to grow up with memories instead of parents, and questions that will never have satisfying answers. And for the offenders, the consequences stretch far beyond prison walls. They will live with their actions long after headlines fade, carrying the weight of irreversible decisions into every remaining year of their lives. Hampshire, like any county, is filled with ordinary streets and quiet evenings. But these cases remind us that behind even the most familiar settings, unseen struggles can exist, and sometimes they erupt with devastating force. True crime is not about spectacle. It is about understanding how ordinary lives can cross extraordinary lines. Because silence can be dangerous. And because recognizing warning signs, whether in ourselves or others, may be the difference between prevention and tragedy. This has been UK Real Crime, where hidden stories are brought into the light, not to sensationalize, but to remember, to learn, and to remain vigilant. If you have a case you believe deserves attention, a story overlooked, forgotten, or misunderstood, share it in the comments below. And if you want to continue exploring the darker truths that hide beneath Britain's quiet streets, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next investigation. Until then, stay curious, stay aware, and above all, stay vigilant.